They say couples therapy works best when both people are willing to try. But I'll be honest, I never thought we'd make it that far. The night I booked those tickets, I was desperate. Not because I thought we could fix it, but because I had nothing left to throw at the fire that was burning down our marriage. It started with a conversation that ended in silence. I remember standing in our kitchen, trying to reach her, really reach her, and it felt like yelling into a canyon. Her eyes were on her phone the entire time. She'd nod, say but it was like talking to someone who wasn't even in the same room, let alone the same life. Do you even want to try anymore? I asked, finally. Just laid it out. She didn't answer for a long time. Then she said, I don't know. I hated that answer. I don't know is worse than no. It's a coward's way out, like keeping the escape door cracked just in case. But I clung to it, because I don't know meant maybe, and maybe meant hope. And at that point, I needed hope like oxygen. That night I booked 2 tickets to see our hometown team play. Front row seats. She used to be a huge fan, jersey wearing, stats yelling, nacho munching kind of fan. It was one of the few things we used to really bond over. Back when we were just dating, we'd go to games and scream ourselves hoarse. I figured maybe, just maybe, that shared energy could crack the ice. Just us, I told her. No pressure. Let's go, have a few drinks, forget about everything for a few hours. She agreed. I thought that meant something. Looking back, I think she said yes because she knew I needed it, not because she wanted to fix anything, and maybe because she had her own reasons. The day of the game, she actually seemed in good spirits. Hair done, light makeup. Even wore the jersey I got her 2 Christmases ago. That meant something to me. I thought, this is it. This is the start of our comeback. We parked in the usual lot, the one just a few blocks from the stadium, where we used to walk hand in hand past the food trucks and laugh at the crazy tailgaters. We didn't hold hands this time, but we weren't fighting either. That felt like a win. Inside, the stadium was buzzing, packed. Everyone was hyped. It was the kind of night where the energy grabs you by the ribs and shakes loose everything weighing you down. I looked over at her, and for a second, she looked like the girl I fell in love with. She smiled when the team ran out onto the field. She cheered when the first touchdown happened. She even laughed at one of my dumb jokes. For maybe the first time in months, I started to believe we could pull through. Then, just as halftime started, she leaned over and said, I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick. All right, I said. You want me to get us another round of beers? Sure, that'd be great, she said. Then she kissed me on the cheek. In that kiss, it felt strange, like a goodbye. But I didn't realize it at the time. I watched her walk away. I stayed in my seat for a minute, just soaking in the feeling of the night. Then I got up and headed toward the vendor stands to grab the drinks. That's when things started to shift. I took my time. Lines were long, and I figured she might take a while. But as I made my way back to our seats, something caught my attention. It was just a flicker, really. Near the corridor leading to the restrooms, I saw a guy walk out adjusting his shirt. Nothing weird. Except, he was followed closely by my wife. They didn't walk out together. Not exactly. But there was something about the timing. The way he looked over his shoulder. The way she smoothed her hair. I stood there holding 2 plastic cups of overpriced beer, and I felt something cold settle in my stomach. She spotted me and smiled too quickly. Like she'd rehearsed it. Perfect timing, she said, taking her beer. Did I miss anything? Nope, I said. I watched her closely. She didn't seem flustered. She took a sip, licked the foam from her upper lip, and turned back toward the field like nothing had happened. But I knew that look. I knew that calm. I'd seen it when she used to lie to her mom about staying out late. That practiced innocence. Still, I said nothing. I needed to be sure. I told myself maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe it really was nothing. Maybe he wasn't even coming from the same bathroom. But I watched that guy. I saw him glance back twice from the beer line, and both times his eyes landed on her. And both times, she pretended not to notice. That was the beginning of the end. What happened next would spiral into weeks of uncovering the truth, ugly, humiliating, surreal truths I never expected to be part of my life. It would lead to lawyers, courtrooms, testimonies, and a moment I'll never forget for the rest of my life, the judge's gavel falling, and the look on her face when she realized what she'd lost. But that night in the stadium, in that one moment, I still thought I might be wrong. I still had hope. God, I was such a fool. We got home late that night. The game had gone into overtime, and she seemed wired, talking fast, smiling a little too much, acting like everything between us was just fine. She even tried to pull me into bed when we got home. And I'll admit, I almost went with it. I wanted to believe the night meant something. I wanted to believe her sudden affection wasn't just guilt wearing perfume. But that look on the guy's face, the way she avoided eye contact when I mentioned the bathroom line being crazy long, it all stuck with me. I laid awake while she slept, just staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd imagined it. The next morning, I decided to do something I hadn't done in our marriage before. I snooped. I know how that sounds. I know it makes me look bad, but you don't get to that point because things are good. You get there because something inside you is screaming that things are wrong, and the person you love won't tell you the truth. She was in the shower. I had maybe 10 minutes. Her phone was on the nightstand, locked, but she'd used the same passcode for years. I knew it. She never bothered to change it. I opened it, heart pounding. There were no obvious messages or recent calls. No suspicious names in her contacts. Her text inbox was mostly coworkers and old group chats. Clean. Too clean. I opened her photo gallery. Nothing. I went to her browser history. Cleared. Then I thought of something. Snapchat. She used it mostly for filters and goofy pictures. At least, that's what I thought. I opened the app. It was still logged in. There were saved chats. A few, actually. But one stood out. Just a single fire emoji next to a username I didn't recognize. No real name. No picture. Just Josh RXX. I opened the chat. Nothing saved. Just the last message. That was insane. You're incredible. And her reply, still can't believe I did that LOL. The timestamp? 9:41 p.m. That was halftime. I stared at the screen, waiting to feel something. Rage, disbelief, anything. But what I felt was a slow, sinking numbness. That message wasn't about flirting or some inside joke. I knew what happened. I'd suspected it the moment I saw her leave the bathroom. And now, I had proof. Or, almost proof. I took screenshots. I emailed them to myself. Then I put the phone back exactly as I found it. When she got out of the shower, she was humming. She kissed my cheek and asked if I wanted pancakes. I looked at her like I was seeing a stranger. The next few days, I pretended nothing was wrong. I needed time. I needed to be sure. So I started paying attention to her moods, to her excuses, to how often she was on her phone and what time she went to bed. She'd started taking her phone into the bathroom, something she never used to do. She'd put it face down on the nightstand at night. She turned off message previews. All little things I hadn't noticed before. I started looking up the stadium's layout. I found a diagram of the section we were sitting in, figured out which bathrooms were closest, and called the stadium's guest services number. I told them I'd lost something valuable and asked if they had security footage from that night. They said they might, but only if law enforcement requested it. That gave me an idea. I wasn't planning on going full investigation mode. I just wanted to confirm one thing, who that guy was. So I went online and found a fan forum. There was a thread about the game with photos from the crowd. I scanned through them, eyes burning, looking for a needle in a haystack. And I found it. One photo, taken by a fan near the bathroom corridor. Just a blurry candid of the crowd. But there, barely visible, was her, my wife, in her jersey, standing next to him. And his face? Clear as day. I zoomed in. Tall guy. Black hoodie. Backward cap. Beard. He wasn't just a stranger. He was someone I'd seen before. It took me a while to place him. But when I did, my blood ran cold. He worked at her company. Not just the same building. Not just the same floor. Her department. This wasn't a random encounter. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment mistake. This was planned. I sat with that for a full day. Didn't eat. Didn't sleep. Just paced and thought, and tried to figure out what to do. I couldn't just accuse her. She'd lie. She was good at that. She'd gaslight me, twist it, make me question what I'd seen. I needed more. I needed something real. Something undeniable. So I made a decision. I reached out to a friend of mine who worked in IT. I told him the situation. He didn't ask many questions, just gave me a USB stick with a tiny recording device I could plug into the charger in our bedroom. It would record everything, audio only, but that's all I needed. The next night, I planted it while she was at yoga. When she got home, I acted normal. We watched TV. We talked about dinner plans. I even kissed her goodnight. But my mind was already ahead, racing through the possibilities of what I might hear. I was still hoping, somehow, ridiculously hoping that I was wrong, that she wasn't cheating in our bed, that she wasn't bringing this man into our home, that I hadn't been married to a stranger for the past 5 years. That night, I barely slept. Every creak in the house sounded like it meant something. Every sigh she made beside me in bed carried weight, like it came from a different world, when I wasn't part of anymore. By morning, she was already up, making coffee like it was any other day, humming some pop song I didn't recognize. She looked happy. God, that pissed me off. I waited for her to leave for work before I checked the USB, plugged it into my laptop, dragged over the audio file, and sat there for 10 minutes with my finger hovering over play. I had to force myself to listen, and it was awful. There wasn't any smoking gun right away. No moaning, no calls to her lover, just quiet. Then her voice. It was her on the phone. She was pacing, maybe in the hallway. The mic didn't catch everything, but I heard just enough. He bought the game tickets. Yeah, front row. No, he has no idea. A pause. Then laughter. No, in the bathroom, it was quick. But damn, I didn't expect that from you. My hand tightened into a fist. More silence. Then her voice again. Lower now. I can't keep this up much longer. He's starting to look at me different. It's creeping me out. That cut deeper than anything else. Like I was some pathetic burden she was tolerating until she figured out her next move. I stopped the recording there. I couldn't take it. I sat there in the kitchen with the laptop open in front of me, the morning sun creeping in through the blinds, and just broke. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt hollow. Like I died, and my body hadn't gotten the message yet. I didn't say anything to her that day. I couldn't. I was operating on autopilot, responding to texts, going through meetings, pretending to eat lunch. But I knew one thing. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. This was deception on a whole new level. She used me. Used my love, my effort, even my money to facilitate an affair. And I wasn't going to confront her with emotion. No yelling. No begging. I was going to take her to court. I started researching. Looked into divorce lawyers. Recorded everything I could remember. Took screenshots. Backed up the audio. I even wrote down the names of every person she worked with who matched that guy's description. It turns out his name was Josh Rivera. I found him on LinkedIn. He worked in marketing at her firm. Married. 2 kids. She was sleeping with someone who had just as much to lose. That gave me leverage. A few days later, I met with a lawyer. She was sharp. Professional. Asked me 100 questions and didn't flinch once while I recounted what happened. At the end of it, she said, "We can work with this. Especially if she's done anything during the marriage that affects shared finances or custody." "We don't have kids," I said quickly. The lawyer nodded. "Then this is about asset division and proving misconduct, infidelity, deceit. We build a case. We document everything. We subpoena records if we need to." "What are my odds?" I asked. She didn't sugarcoat it. "Depends on the judge. But the more evidence we have, the more power you have in settlement or trial." I nodded. My throat felt tight. "I'm in," I said. That night, I started documenting everything. I opened a private folder on my laptop, password protected. I added the Snapchat messages, screenshots of her chat with Josh, RXX, audio recordings from the device, the blurry stadium photo, my own written log of what I saw and heard. It became an obsession. I tracked her movements, checked phone records when I could. I knew it was toxic. I knew it wasn't healthy, but I wasn't doing it to understand her. I was doing it to beat her. Because she'd already made her decision. She'd already thrown away our marriage like yesterday's trash. But she didn't get to walk away clean. No, she didn't get to smile and flirt and lie while I footed the bill and played the fool. Then, something unexpected happened. A week later, she brought up marriage counseling again. "We should go," she said, casual, over dinner. I looked up slowly. "Why now?" She shrugged. "I don't know. You've been distant. I want us to be better." I almost laughed. It was manipulation. A distraction. Maybe guilt. Maybe fear I was catching on. But I agreed. Not because I believed in it. Not anymore. I just wanted a record that I'd tried. I wanted the court to see I'd given her every chance to come clean, to be honest, to work it out. We went to one session. She told the therapist I'd been cold, distant, emotionally unavailable. She said I worked too much, that I didn't listen. And I sat there and nodded, letting her talk, taking it all in. Because the truth was coming. And when it did, it would speak louder than anything she could say in that little office. Therapy didn't last long. After the second session, she said she didn't feel like it was helping, that she wasn't comfortable being vulnerable in front of someone else. I didn't fight her on it. I just nodded like I understood. And maybe in a twisted way, I did. It's hard to be vulnerable when you're living a lie. But even as she backed out of therapy, I kept building the case. I started gathering financial documents, bank statements, credit card records. I logged into our shared accounts and began flagging transactions that didn't add up. That's when I found it. A hotel charge. 2 days after the game. A one-night stay at a boutique hotel downtown. One of those overpriced places with mood lighting and romance packages. The charge came through her card, but our accounts were still linked. And she'd told me she was working late that night, that there was a big presentation. It made me sick. I downloaded the statement, took screenshots, emailed it to my lawyer. I wasn't even mad at this point. I was surgical, detached. Every lie she told me became a piece of ammunition. And I wasn't just collecting evidence, I was building a timeline. Halftime at the stadium, affair confirmed. Hotel 2 nights later, continued contact. Multiple Snapchat messages. Ongoing emotional and physical affair. Audio recording. Admissions of deceit. My lawyer was impressed. She said most people didn't come this prepared, that it could fast-track things in court, especially if I wanted to push for fault-based divorce. I did. At home, things were oddly peaceful. She acted normal, too normal. She'd started cooking more, being nicer. She'd text me things like, "Hope your day's going well," and "thinking about you." Maybe she thought I was pulling away and she needed to keep me close. Or maybe she was overcompensating for the guilt. Either way, I played along. I smiled. I kissed her forehead. I said, "I love you too," when she said it first. And every night, when she fell asleep, I looked through her phone, still using the same passcode, still finding nothing saved. She'd gotten better at covering her tracks. But she didn't know I already had everything I needed. What she didn't cover was her email. One night, I opened her Gmail. I never thought to check it before. Snapchat and texts always felt like the more obvious place for secrets. But buried in her promotions folder was an email thread. From Josh. Subject line, "Fun night." He'd used his personal email. The message was short. "Can't stop thinking about you. Let me know if you want to revisit that hotel again next week. This time, no rush." She replied, "Tempting. Let me check the schedule." That email was dated just 5 days ago. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not because I was surprised, but because I wasn't. She wasn't done. She never planned to be done. The next day, I met with my lawyer again. I laid out the updated timeline, showed her the emails. She read them silently, then looked at me and said, "We're ready." We filed that afternoon. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Fault-based. Grounds, adultery and emotional abuse. I didn't tell my wife right away. I wanted the paperwork served when she least expected it. So I waited. Meanwhile, she was planning something too. I found out about it by accident. One morning, she left her laptop open while she took a shower. Outlook was up. She'd minimized a chat window but hadn't closed it. It was a Teams message with someone from HR at her company. She wrote, "Is there any documentation I should prepare in case my husband retaliates? Just covering my bases. He's been distant lately." The HR person responded, "If you feel unsafe, we can loop in legal. Is everything okay?" She hadn't answered yet, but it told me everything I needed to know. She was trying to build a defense. Maybe Josh told her he thought I was onto them. Maybe she saw something in my face. Either way, she was preparing for war. So was I. The server came 2 days later. We timed it right. She was at work. The papers were delivered there, directly to her desk, signed for by reception. I imagined her walking out of a meeting, picking up the envelope, and opening it with that same fake calm she always wore when she was caught. I waited for the call. It came at 3:42 p.m. "Are you kidding me?" she said. "No," I said. Calm. Steady. Not anymore. I could hear her breathing, trying to decide which angle to play. She settled on indignant. "You couldn't even talk to me first? You're just serving me? At work? After what you did in that stadium bathroom?" I said. I figured subtlety was out the window. Dead silence. Then, her voice cracked. "You don't know what you're talking about." I laughed. A dry, humorless sound. "I know everything, and I have it in writing. So if you want to fight this, go ahead. I'll let a judge read those emails out loud." She hung up. I felt nothing. Not triumph, not sadness. Just relief. It was out in the open now. No more pretending. No more waiting for the next lie. Now, it was about resolution. About getting justice. About winning. The morning after the papers were served, she didn't come home. I didn't expect her to. I figured she'd run straight to Josh or maybe her sister's place. Anywhere she could scream about being blindsided and betrayed. She probably painted me as the villain before the envelope even hit her hands. I didn't care. I was done playing the part of the clueless husband, done absorbing every lie with a tight-lipped smile and a hollow nod. The moment that petition was filed, the rules changed. It was war now. And in war, information is power. That's when we entered what my lawyer called the discovery phase. It sounded clinical, boring even, but it was anything but. Discovery meant we could request all sorts of documents, text logs, emails, even security footage. It also meant we could legally ask her and Josh questions under oath if things went to trial. But first came the affidavits. My lawyer helped me draft mine. It was 26 pages long. I laid out everything: the stadium, the suspicious behavior, the audio recordings, the emails, the hotel charges, dates, times, screenshots. I'd never written something so painful and so satisfying at the same time. We sent the affidavit to her lawyer, who she'd hired the day after being served. Some guy from a boutique firm downtown. Probably the same place Josh used when he separated from his wife a year ago. That part wasn't public knowledge, but I found it buried in court records. A quiet, uncontested divorce filed under initials. He and my wife were clever. They covered their tracks well, but not well enough. My lawyer filed a request for production, asking for her full phone records, employment history, and any communications with Josh from the past 6 months. Her team stalled, delayed, objected, which made me smile. You don't delay when you've got nothing to hide. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet. We were living apart now. She had moved out officially. Left a note on the counter that just said, "I can't believe you're doing this." We could have figured it out. That made me laugh. What exactly were we supposed to figure out? How many bathrooms she could sneak into behind my back? How many lies I was willing to swallow? No, that note wasn't for me. It was for her. Another piece in the puzzle she was trying to build, where she's the wrong party, and I'm just angry and controlling. She didn't expect me to be smart about it, didn't expect me to move first. But I had. And now she was scrambling. A few weeks later, we had our first preliminary hearing. Just procedural. Mostly to establish what the judge wanted to see before trial. We both had to be there. I hadn't seen her since the phone call. When she walked into the courtroom, she looked tired, pale, hair pulled back in a too tight bun. Not like herself. She glanced at me once. I didn't look away. She sat beside her attorney, whispered something, and then avoided my eyes for the rest of the hearing. It didn't last long. The judge, older man, stern, outlined what he expected from both parties. Full financial disclosures. All communications relevant to the allegations. Any documentation supporting or refuting claims of infidelity. When her lawyer tried to object to the inclusion of Snapchat messages, the judge cut him off. "If it's in writing and relevant, it's admissible," he said. "Don't waste my time." I almost smiled. After the hearing, her lawyer approached mine privately. I waited by the elevators, pretending not to watch. When my lawyer came back, she had that look, like a poker player who'd just read the table. "They're nervous," she said. "Good," I replied. "They want talk settlement, but I don't think they realize how weak their hand is." I knew what that meant. They'd try to lowball, offer some shallow apology, maybe a slightly skewed asset division, and ask me to drop the adultery claim. I wasn't interested. Not yet. I wanted it all on the record. The bathroom, the lies, the emails, the betrayal. Because no matter how civil she tried to spin it, she did something disgusting. Not just cheating, but orchestrating it, defending it, weaponizing my trust like a shield. I wanted the truth to stand. I wanted it legally stamped. I wanted the court to see exactly who she was. Later that week, my lawyer received a formal proposal from her team. It was a joke. They offered her keeping the condo, me keeping the car, and some savings. No spousal support. No admission of fault. And this part really got me. They wanted me to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I nearly threw my phone. A non-disclosure agreement? After everything? She cheats in a public stadium bathroom, lies to my face for months, and now she wants to gag me from telling the truth? I told my lawyer no. No counter. No agreement. We go to court. I wanted her to sit on that witness stand and explain how a night meant to repair our marriage turned into her quickie with a coworker next to a hand dryer. I wanted her to see the look in the judge's eyes when he read those texts out loud, and I wanted it to be official. The trial date was set for March 17th, fitting St. Patrick's Day. I figured maybe I'd get lucky. Not that I needed luck. By now, we had everything. Every document, every timestamp, every humiliating, incriminating line of her digital paper trail. And for all her arrogance at the start, she had gone quiet. No more counters. No more, let's be civil emails. Just radio silence. I started hearing from mutual friends, though. Messages here and there. One buddy texted, "Hey, just saw her at the gym. She looked wrecked, man. Is everything okay?" I didn't reply. Another message came in. "Not sure if you want to know, but she and that guy from her job? Yeah, they're not even talking anymore. His wife found out too." I did want to know. Not because I cared about their drama, but because it proved a point. There was no connection. No once-in-a-lifetime spark. Just a pathetic, self-serving thrill that cost everyone involved more than they were willing to pay. Turns out Josh's wife had been watching too. She'd hired a PI. Got copies of some of the same footage we dug up, snapshots of him, and my wife entering that hotel downtown, timestamped to the minute. According to court filings, Josh's divorce had reopened. His wife was seeking full custody of their 2 kids and citing abandonment, moral misconduct, and mental cruelty. That broke whatever illusion my wife had been clinging to, because now she was exposed on all sides. Her workplace had quietly moved Josh to another department. People were talking. Whispers about that thing that happened between the two of them. A few HR reviews. An anonymous complaint filed by someone, probably Josh's ex. And her reputation? Shattered. I finally saw her again during a final pretrial conference. This time, she didn't even look at me. She came in late, hair unwashed, wearing a blazer I remembered buying her for a promotion 2 years ago. Her hands trembled when she handed over some last-minute documents. Her lawyer kept whispering things like, "It's just procedure," and "Don't worry, we'll handle it." But she looked worried. I think that was the first time she truly realized this wasn't going to go away quietly, that her lies weren't something she could just apologize for and sweep under a rug. A week before trial, my lawyer received a final Hail Mary from her team. A new offer. She'd relinquish claim to the condo and agree to full fault if I agreed to a private settlement and sealed court documents. Again with the silence. Again with the desperation to bury the truth. I refused. Because for months, I lived in a fog of self-doubt, wondering what I'd done wrong, questioning my worth, my instincts, my sanity. She let me twist in that silence, knowing the truth and saying nothing. Now it was her turn to sit in that same silence, but under oath. The weekend before the trial, I got an email from her. Subject line, "Before court." I stared at it for almost 10 minutes before I opened it. It was a long message. Rambling. Desperate. She talked about how much pressure she'd been under. How things at work had been stressful. How she never planned for any of this to happen. She said she was sorry for lying, for humiliating me, for destroying something that meant so much. But then, of course, she shifted the tone. "You're punishing me in front of everyone. Do you really need to ruin me to move on?" That line made my blood run cold. Because there it was again, her real fear. Not regret. Not heartbreak. Exposure. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. I didn't reply. The day before the trial, I walked into our nearly empty house and sat in the living room where we once watched movies together. I thought about all the small things that used to mean something. The time I found her asleep with a book on her chest and her hand reaching for mine. The time we slow danced in the kitchen just because the radio played our song. The way she used to look at me like I was her entire world. And then I thought about that message. Still can't believe I did that, LOL. I thought about the guy adjusting his shirt walking out of the stadium bathroom. The way she smiled at me afterward and kissed my cheek like she hadn't just thrown everything away for a 5-minute thrill. Whatever love we had was gone. Whatever life we built was nothing more than ashes now. And tomorrow, it would be made official. Court was set for 9 a.m., Division 14, second floor. I arrived early, not because I was nervous, but because I wanted to watch her walk in. I wanted to see what she looked like, knowing this wasn't just some uncomfortable conversation over dinner. This was court. This was real. I sat in the hallway with my lawyer, both of us quiet. She reviewed some last-minute notes while I just waited, calm, focused, like I was about to run the last mile of a marathon I never asked to join. She arrived 10 minutes before start time, hair straightened, makeup thick, trying to look composed, trying to look like the victim. She didn't look at me. Her attorney carried the file like it was filled with secrets and shame. And maybe it was. He glanced over at us, gave a tight nod. My lawyer didn't respond. We were called in at 9:05. The courtroom wasn't full. Just a few clerks, the judge, court reporter, and both legal teams. But the tension? You could cut it with a knife. The judge was a no-nonsense type. Stern voice. Short sentences. The kind of guy you don't interrupt unless you want to get benched. He opened the case, read out the docket, and asked for opening remarks. Her lawyer started. Your Honor, this is not a case of malicious betrayal, as the opposing party has attempted to portray. This is a matter of two people growing apart. Yes, mistakes were made, but... My lawyer stood up. Your Honor, we're prepared to present evidence of infidelity, deception, and emotional misconduct that directly contradicts the narrative being suggested here. The judge raised a hand. We'll get there, but let's stay focused. Begin your presentation. And so it began. Exhibits A through L were submitted. The stadium diagram, the photo of her exiting the bathroom behind Josh Rivera, the Snapchat messages, the emails, the hotel bill, the audio clip of her phone call, where she laughed about what happened that night. She sat there, eyes fixed on the table. When the audio played out loud in the courtroom, I watched her flinch. I watched her attorney shift in his seat. He bought the game tickets. Yeah, front row. No, he has no idea. That was her voice. Crystal clear. The court reporter typed every word. Then came the witness list. We called 3 people. A mutual friend of ours who had seen the email thread and verified her tone and intentions. A coworker of hers, anonymous, by court order, who confirmed rumors had been swirling about her relationship with Josh well before the night in question. Me. When I took the stand, I kept it simple. I didn't dramatize. I told the court about how the game was supposed to be a last chance, how I saw her exit the bathroom behind another man, how I went home and tried to dismiss it until I saw the message on her phone. I recounted the hotel charge, the recording, the emails. My voice never broke. I wanted the court to see me not as a bitter ex, but as a man who tried, really tried, to save something that had already been dead behind my back. Her lawyer cross-examined, tried to poke holes. So you went through your wife's phone without her consent? Yes, I said, and I'd do it again. Do you think that shows a lack of trust? I think it shows I was right not to trust her. The judge didn't interrupt. Then it was her turn. She took the stand with a tissue already in hand. She opened with a weak, wavering voice. Said she never intended to hurt me. Said it was just a moment of confusion. That she felt alone in the marriage and made a mistake. My lawyer asked her one question. Was the bathroom incident the only occurrence? She hesitated. Yes. My lawyer pulled out the hotel receipt. And this stay 2 nights later. Also confusion? Silence. The judge leaned forward. You're under oath, Mrs. Green. Answer the question. No, she said quietly. It wasn't just that night. That broke something in the room. You could feel it. Even her attorney slumped. Closing arguments came quickly. Her side leaned into emotion. How the marriage had been strained. How mistakes don't define character. How a clean break would be best for everyone. We didn't go emotional. We went factual. Betrayal, deceit, premeditated misconduct, and the importance of accountability, both in marriage and in court. Then the judge took a recess to deliberate. It lasted 25 minutes. Longest 25 minutes of my life. When we were called back in, the room went still. The judge looked at her. Mrs. Green, the court finds that you engaged in a pattern of deception and infidelity that fundamentally undermined the foundation of your marriage. The evidence is extensive and compelling. Mr. Green, your petition for fault-based dissolution is granted. All jointly held assets will be divided as per your filing. The condo will remain in your possession. The court denies any request for privacy or non-disclosure of these proceedings. I didn't smile. I just exhaled. 5 months of waiting, 10 years of marriage. And it ended with a gavel. Bang. Court ended just after noon. I stepped outside into the daylight and stood there for a moment, letting the sun hit my face like it was the first time I'd felt it in years. My lawyer shook my hand and told me to take care of myself. She said the hard part was over. I wasn't so sure. Because the court may have ended it on paper, but real endings don't come with a gavel. They come in pieces, in waves, in long silences and short conversations you replay for weeks. She walked out of the courthouse minutes after me. I didn't expect her to say anything, but she did. She caught up to me on the steps. Voice small, eyes red. I never thought it would come to this, she said. I didn't answer. I'm sorry, she added. This time, I looked at her. No, you're not, I said. You're sorry it wasn't a secret. You're sorry you got caught. Her mouth opened, then closed again. She didn't deny it. That was the last time we ever spoke face to face. Over the next few weeks, word spread. Even though the court documents weren't sealed, I never shared them publicly. I didn't need to. People talk. And when they did, I stayed quiet. I let the truth stand on its own. One of her coworkers reached out through a mutual friend, said she'd put in her resignation. Something about needing a fresh start. A couple of HR complaints had been filed, none by me, but I imagine the fallout with Josh had made her work life unbearable. Josh's ex-wife sent me an email, too. Short, just 2 lines. He told me everything. I'm sorry you had to go through this too. I hope you find peace. I never replied, but I appreciated it. Sometimes, solidarity is enough. The condo was mine now. Empty, quiet. For a while, I hated coming home. The room still smelled like her shampoo. I'd open a drawer and find a bobby pin, or a bracelet, or a receipt from some dinner we'd gone to a year ago, back when I still believed in us. I threw out what I could. Sold the couch, repainted the bedroom, bought a new bed, not because I had anyone to share it with, but because I couldn't sleep another night in a place where she'd once curled up next to me after texting another man. Every weekend, I reclaimed a little more of the space. 1 lamp, 1 shelf, 1 photo taken down, frame and all. And slowly, the place stopped feeling like hers. Stopped feeling like ours. Started feeling like mine. I didn't date, didn't party, didn't pretend I was living my best life or whatever social media tells you to do after a breakup. I just sat with it, all of it. The shame, the anger, the parts of myself I lost trying to keep something broken from falling apart. The way I blamed myself for not being exciting enough, or adventurous, or fun, when the truth was simple. I was loyal, and she wasn't. And that's not on me. Months passed. One day, I got a letter in the mail. Legal envelope. Same firm that represented her. Inside was a notice. She had filed for a name change. Wanted to revert to her maiden name. I stared at the paper. There was something weirdly poetic about it. She'd spent so much time trying to erase what she did, covering her tracks, silencing her guilt, hiding from the truth. But the name? That was just another costume to slip off. She could change her last name, move cities, dye her hair, start over with someone new. But she'd always be the woman who kissed her husband on the cheek and then walked into a public restroom to sleep with someone else. She'd always be the woman who laughed about it afterward. Some things you can't wash off. They don't tell you what healing actually feels like. Movies make it seem like there's a montage, some upbeat music, maybe a haircut, a new apartment, spontaneous laughter in a coffee shop with a new love interest. But in real life, healing's not cinematic. It's not loud. It's slow. It's quiet mornings where you sit on the edge of the bed for 10 minutes just breathing, realizing you don't feel as heavy as you did the week before. It's going to the grocery store alone for the first time in months and not remembering what her favorite cereal was and not caring. It's doing laundry and folding a towel and noticing, just barely, that it no longer smells like her. It's silence that no longer hurts. I remember one night about 2 months after the final hearing. I was sitting on the balcony, same spot where we used to drink wine on Sundays. The sun was going down, the street lights were just flickering on, and there was this breeze. Not cold, not warm, just clean. I looked around the condo and realized something strange. It felt like home again. For the first time since she left, I didn't feel haunted, didn't feel watched, didn't feel like I was occupying someone else's space. It was mine. I lit a candle, turned on some music. Nothing fancy, just background noise. I didn't do anything profound. I just sat, and it felt okay. Not amazing, not joyful, just okay. But that's healing. That's what it looks like when the bleeding finally starts to clot. People started asking questions. Friends, family, old acquaintances. Some said things like, I had no idea it was that bad. Others asked if I regretted taking it to court, if I wished I'd just walked away quietly. And every time, I said the same thing. She made it public. I just told the truth. Because she wasn't just cheating in secret. She was making choices out in the open. Bathroom stalls at public games. Hotels charged shared accounts. Talking about me like I was the idiot for trusting her. And then she wanted me to go quietly? To seal it all up? To sign an NDA like she was some brand trying to avoid bad PR? No. She took something from me, and I don't mean a couch or a wedding ring or some mutual friends. She took my peace. She took my dignity and wore it like a scarf while she smiled and kissed me and told everyone we were working on things. But I got it back, not by yelling, not by fighting, but by standing still while the truth spoke louder than either of us ever could. There was a moment in court, just a flicker, that still stays with me. When the judge read out the verdict, and she looked up, lips slightly parted like she couldn't believe it. It hit her then. She wasn't in control anymore. She couldn't twist it, couldn't edit it, couldn't hide it. It was out there, typed, filed, signed, truth made permanent. And I think that's when I really started healing. Not when the relationship ended, but when I realized she didn't get to write the ending. I did.